Welcome to episode 5. Today we're going to talk and discuss about can you reverse diabetes type 2? And I've got a star-studded lineup today. We're going to be joined to start off with by Dr. David Unwin and Dr. Jen Unwin, husband and wife team from Southport. Dr. David Unwin, a few years back, was voted the Innovator of the Year for the NHS, and what he has done to expose sugar hidden in certain foods is nothing short of a revelation to so many people. His charts of explaining the sugar hiding in so many different things are so widely adapted now that NICE, which is a body which I'm sure we'll talk about, supplies information to the NHS, have formally adopted all of his charts. Jen herself, a great doctor, looking around the areas of psychology. We'll talk to Jen as well. After that, we're going to hear from the Caldesi family. And the Caldesis, Katie and Giancarlo, have the #1 selling book on Amazon, or certainly #1 selling last week. They're also featured in the Daily Mail. They've been on the BBC. And he's got a great story to tell about he did reverse his own diabetes. Now, if you are new to the show, let me just quickly remind you what we are all about. It's about, first, helping you get through this period and saying, look, while all the sort of takeaways are shut, lots of the fast food chains are shut, the restaurants are shut, maybe this is time to change eating habits. Secondly, it's about raising money for the food banks across the UK. We're going to show you a little short video in a second. And together we can help so many people put food on their table. And third, we're talking to lots and lots of guests during the shows every morning to say, right, what might life look like when we come out the other side of this? What positives can we focus on? Because obviously everybody, and quite rightly, is a bit depressed, a lot of anxiety going on. But let's look at some positives that might come out the other side of this. Maybe we might contribute towards slowing down global warming. Maybe we're going to be more sort of into communities and so on. Maybe we get our health looked after much better ourselves and understanding. So all those things. We're going to show you a video very shortly of why we're doing this though for the food banks. And in a second, I'm going to say hello to my family this morning. They are producing the show. So we have can't get my own kids' name right there. Jack, Jess and Lily working on the show this morning. Jack, are we ready to show a clip for the support for the food banks? And then we'll come straight back and we'll get Jen and David on the line.
Last year, food banks in the Trussell Trust's network distributed almost 1.6 million 3-day emergency food supplies to people in crisis. That's a 19% increase from the previous year and 73% more than what was distributed 5 years ago. The main reasons for people needing emergency food are benefits not covering the cost of living, or delays, or changes to benefits being paid. People are being pushed into poverty because there isn't enough money coming in to cover the costs of essentials. It's not right that anyone is forced to turn to a food bank as a result. We all have a responsibility to play a part in ending hunger and poverty in the UK. Together, we can make it happen. This can change.
Hey, how are you?
We're good.
Hello.
Excellent. Nice to see you both.
Hi, everyone.
So for those that don't know, this is David and Jen, really good friends of mine. And I was just saying, David, before you came on, how your work in uncovering where sugar's been hidden has been adopted by so many people now. And those that have watched our little cartoon, you know, a lot of that data was from all the great work you've done. So thank you for exposing where sugar's hidden. And Jen, great advice when we did that podcast about, you know, how we can try and motivate people, especially in times of illness. Great stuff there. So the microphone's really yours this morning, team. We've labelled this one, Can I Reverse Type 2 Diabetes? We've got your good friends, Katie and Giancarlo, coming on in a little bit. We'll have a 3-way conversation. But tell us your story and let's spread some positivity around anybody that maybe is pre-diabetic or diabetic. Let's give some advice and let's put a smile on everybody's face this morning.
Right, who's going to start?
I'm going to start. I think I'd like to tell people this really is a message of hope And I suppose the background is, so I'm a GP in the north of England. We've got a practice of 9,500 patients. I've helped to look after those people since 1986. And the important point is that for the first 25 years of my journey as a GP, I didn't actually reverse anybody's diabetes at all. And we're talking about type 2 diabetes, of course. Type 1 diabetes, and you need insulin, and that can't be reversed. Anyway, the point is, for those 25 years, I mainly used drugs, and patients to me just seemed to get sicker and fatter. It was really, really depressing. And then I met my first patient who'd put her diabetes into remission, and the rest is history, because now I think we've got over 70 patients in the practice now who we've got into drug-free diabetes remission. So we've done it, what I hadn't done a single time in 25 years, I've done 70 times in the last few years. Brilliant. And I hope that's of interest to people.
Yeah, absolutely is indeed. In fact, the work you've been doing with diabetes.co.uk, so you've done sort of 70 local, but with your support for diabetes.co.uk, there's been thousands of people, hasn't there? That's
actually hundreds of thousands.
Wow, that's brilliant.
So that's actually quite an interesting story that your viewers might like.
Sure.
So the very first patient who came in to see me, who'd put her diabetes into remission, she said to me, well, I'm not alone. There are thousands and thousands of us. And they were the low carb forum on diabetes.co.uk. And when I went on there, I found she was telling the truth. And because of that connection, eventually, we co-wrote a low carb program. And that has been done by 460,000 people around the world.
Wow.
So the story begins with one person, and now hundreds of thousands of people around the world have done this in their own homes.
So I've got two questions, David. The question is how. So let's explain, the steps people have done, and also importantly, why that's a good thing. So let's maybe do the how first. How have so many people done what doctors, including yourself, years and years ago, in fact, sadly, the doctor that looks after my dad still says it's irreversible, it's progressive, and it's chronic. So how have you changed and helped so many people?
It's amazingly simple, really. That very first patient connected me with the idea that type 2 diabetes for most people is broadly about sugar. Mm-hmm. And that basically, if you have type 2 diabetes, you struggle to metabolize sugar. And again, logically, the more sugar you have, the more problems you have because you can't deal with it. Now, I didn't know that much, but what I had forgotten and what this lady reminded me, she said, Dr. Unwin, did you do GCSE biology? Because had you forgotten that bread is sugar too? And you know what? I had forgotten. So starch, which makes up potatoes, rice, breakfast cereals, and there's some in bananas, is actually glucose molecules holding hands. And digestion comes along and breaks up the starch back into sugar. So as that lady explained to me, if you have type 2 diabetes, bread, potatoes, breakfast cereals, because they break down into so much sugar, they may not be the best of dietary choices. And here's the, well done.
Here's one of your charts.
Here we are. So I came up, this is my innovative thing. So with Dr. Jeffrey Leavesey, an academic specializing in the glycemic index and the glycemic load, we came up with a system where we're looking at portions of food and helping people understand how many teaspoons of sugar would equal that portion of food in terms of the effect on their blood glucose. So a bowl of rice, 150 grams of rice, which was at the top of the chart before,
We'll put that back on.
is broadly equivalent to 10 teaspoons of sugar.
Wow.
All right. Or a bowl of mashed potato, the white potato, is broadly equivalent to 9 teaspoons of sugar. These are approximations, but it really makes it obvious, as the lady said to me, is it a good idea to eat rice or potatoes or breakfast cereal if you have type 2 diabetes? Because it's going to put your blood glucose up. Maybe you could eat something else that doesn't put your blood sugar up. Another one of my infographics shows a typical breakfast of bran flakes. Oh, wow.
We have them all.
Here it is.
We live by them as a
Brown
family.
flakes. Yeah. Brown toast, some apple juice. I was telling my patients this was a healthy breakfast, but it's equivalent to about 16 teaspoons of sugar. So is it a healthy breakfast? If you, instead of having that, had a 3-egg cheese omelette with coffee and cream, that would be the equivalent of about 1 teaspoon.
Right.
So I think I'm trying to say that, yes, for most people, it's about sugar. Taking an interest in where sugar comes from in your diet is a great one. Mm-hmm. Start with obvious sugar that you're spooning into your tea and your coffee or you're eating in your biscuits. But if you still don't do well, maybe it's the sugar locked up in starch that would be the next thing, and you could eat less of that.
And is this only a problem for people that are diabetic or pre-diabetic, or is this a problem for people that are also overweight, or is it really a problem for everybody that we should be aware of how much glucose that we're taking into the body?
Yeah. One of the difficulties is many people don't know whether they even have diabetes or have pre-diabetes. Mm-hmm. A hint I would give is certainly when I was 55, I thought my middle-age spread was just to do with age. Actually, what is happening is if you're beginning to get a big tummy, that's an early sign that you're having metabolic problems, because insulin, the hormone that deals with the high blood sugar, pushes sugar out of the bloodstream and into your belly fat. There's a link between central obesity or a big belly and metabolic problems like diabetes, like fatty liver disease. There's also a link with central obesity and 8 different forms of cancer.
Wow.
So given the link between sugar and a big belly, and given that so many people would be worried about cancer, diabetes, pre-diabetes, fatty liver, having too much sugar or starch is probably not a good idea for many of us, given that you could eat something else. Mm-hmm. One of my hints is, why don't you turn the white stuff green? So if you're going to have a curry, have one, enjoy it, but why don't you have it on a pile of broccoli or some green stuff? Why are we bothering with the white stuff?
Such great advice. That's one of the after we came to your house for that dinner, which was lovely, cooked by Jen.
Yeah.
And you know, it's beautiful. And before I wrote my cookbook, everything was with rice or with pasta or cider bread, and until you educated us on all this was sugar. And now my children will tell you, your kids, what do we normally have with the curry? I hope they say the right thing right now.
Cauliflower rice.
I'm listening.
Cauliflower rice, they just said. Cauliflower rice, or a bed of spinach, or and the thing I find is actually, when you think about it, once you change your taste buds, once you then try rice again or pasta again or bread, it's so bland, there's no flavour.
It is.
So, and all those other things are just so flavoursome.
And I think if you think of the diet, if you started the day with breakfast cereals or toast, and then you have a little snack mid-morning, and then you have a sandwich, and then you have pizza, you just had sugar with your sugar all day long, because all of those break down into sugar. Mm-hmm. And I find many people are not having green veg, not having enough protein. Mm-hmm. And for young people, protein is quite an important thing. There's a quick safety thing, Steve, that I ought to put in,
Sure.
and that is that for people on drugs for their type 2 diabetes, if you're going to make major dietary changes, you would need to just check with your doctor that changing your diet is okay, because of course you can, some of your drugs may be dropping your blood sugar, but maybe going low carb would do the same. So there's the danger for somebody of having a low blood glucose if they do both.
Yeah. So
One,
just
a
the
little
word,
quick
the
thing.
word warning there
Metformin, though,
sorry.
is safe.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
I say the warning then is for people like my dad watching this program, don't go out and radically change your diet if you're still injecting the same amount of insulin every day.
Exactly.
Work with your advisor, work with your GP. So look, I want to try this, I want to cut down the medication. How do we do this together?
Yes. For people who are not on medication, or people who are just taking metformin, the commonest drug they're on, trying low carb is okay. But anything beyond metformin needs discussing with your healthcare provider.
That's brilliant advice. Thank you both for that. Now, we've got some questions coming in already. Yvonne Milton says, I've managed to go from pre-diabetic, we'll talk about what HbA1 measurements are in a moment, but she was at 47 into the normal range of 37, and it's still reducing just by following the low carb, high fat. And the side effect of low carb, high fat is I've lost 7 stone.
Oh. Hooray for you.
So for all the doubting Toms out there, she's reduced her...
Yeah, we've had some amazing... we've got a lady at the moment who's lost now over 8 stone. I
No,
think.
it's 9.
9 stone every time I get an update.
Jen.
Keep up. She was in a wheelchair this time last year, and all she's done is cut the sugar out of her diet. So as David said, it's actually very simple. It's not always easy for people because sugar and carbohydrate do have that effect where certainly for a good proportion of people, they're act in a sort of addictive way. So it's not always the easiest thing to do, but it's quite simple. And there are, there's lots of people who've benefited, unbelievably in terms of their quality of life, including Giancarlo, who you're going to hear from very soon.
And that's why the book's called Fat and Furious. David, similar stories, but slightly different. I'm furious because I was obese for 25 years, always on a diet, always miserable, always doing sport, damaging my knees because I was overweight. I'm furious that it's ridiculously simple. You must be furious as a GP because you started off this show by saying, look, for years I gave the wrong advice. It was just that I didn't know. And we're all furious, aren't we, that it is actually quite simple?
Yeah.
Actually, I'm kind of disappointed with myself that I was such a
don't be.
It's a pity though to spend 25 years, isn't it, using drugs. And I would also say that now our practice, we save £50,000 per year that we are not spending on drugs for diabetes. And so there are benefits for the Treasury, benefits for my patients. Just a quick word on hemoglobin A1C.
Yes, please. Yeah.
So hemoglobin A1C is the blood test that we do for our patients with diabetes, and it gives you an idea of how sugary has your blood been in the preceding 120 days.
Okay.
So there's a kind of hint there. How sugary have you been? Be less sugary. And obviously Yvonne there, I think she'd gone down, what was that?
From 47 down to 37.
Yeah, so she was very, very nearly diabetic, but now she's really in the normal range.
Yeah.
She's done herself a massive favour there.
And in plain English, for somebody that's not a doctor like me, that's learning all these things, is it right to say, look, there's a blood molecule, it's almost like how much coating of sugar is around the blood. Is that what we're saying?
It's how much sugar is, as it were, dissolved in the blood.
Okay.
So it's a bit like if you're putting sugar into a cup of tea, how many spoonfuls of sugar can you put in the cup of tea? It's dissolved into the blood, and then insulin pushes it out from the blood into your muscles for energy, into your belly fat, and into your liver. So insulin is nature's way of reducing blood glucose because the high blood glucose is dangerous.
And there's a fantastic fact, Steve, which you probably know, and that's how many teaspoons of sugar, since we were talking about teaspoons of sugar, how many teaspoons of sugar in say, my bloodstream or David's bloodstream normally at any one time? I don't know. Do you know the answer to that?
Is the question, what is it or what should it be?
What? Well, yeah. What is it?
How much is there?
How much?
If we
How
drain,
many teaspoons of sugar?
Well, let's
in
do
your
it.
blood right now?
Let's
Yeah.
do this. So
How many?
I have no idea. I don't know whether the answer is 5, 10 or 100.
Steve, if we
What
drained
would you,
all the,
what
if
would
we,
you guess?
if we drained all the blood out of you and extracted the sugar,
Yeah.
the question is, how many teaspoons of sugar would there be at the end of that?
Well, I haven't eaten for 36 hours, so I'd hope none. But then again,
You've got to have some sugar
You
to
have to
keep
have
have
some,
alive.
some
because
for
your
some
brain needs it.
energy,
Your
but
brain needs
I'm
it,
hoping
yeah.
that's coming from the fasting state
Yeah.
but I'm going to guess 10.
Right.
Oh, yeah, interesting.
What's
Yeah,
the
because
answer,
obviously your body moderates it for you, so you've got the amount of sugar you need because your body's actually making it for you. The answer is less than 1, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 1, sort of 1 more or less.
You're saying that we should
That's
have
all there is in
That's
the
all
whole.
you need. It's all you need at any one time. And obviously in a banana,
Yeah.
we've already said, haven't we? There's 6.
5 to 6.
5 to 6. So nobody actually needs to eat a banana. You know how we all say, oh, I used to do this as well. Oh, I must have a banana for energy. I used to have one on the way to work.
Well, maybe a quarter of a banana.
A quarter would have been all right, but nobody eats a quarter of a banana or half a Mars bar, do they? So the amount of sugar that you actually need to function really well is very low.
Well,
I must
now
interrupt.
that's really interesting.
There's another important thing the viewers need to know, and that is that nearly every cell in your body is a wonderful dual fuel engine. So you can burn either glucose or fat.
Yep.
So Steve, you are happy to be a fat burner, and you've burnt off your belly because you're burning fat. So you can burn fat as fuel. And if you have diabetes, it makes a lot more sense to be a fat burner.
Sure.
Because you struggle to burn sugar. And I think we sometimes forget that there are 2 sources of fuel. Fat is as good and maybe better for many
And
people.
once you're a fat burner, you have that steady state of energy because your body's sort of doing that itself rather than these kind of peaks and troughs that you get from having your banana or your Mars bar.
Yep.
You feel great for about an hour, don't you? And then a
Yeah.
couple of hours later, you fancy another one and you feel a bit shaky or, a bit, so people go, oh, low blood sugar, which, they haven't really, but it's that sensation, which then drives you to eat more. And that's why it's simple advice, but sometimes it's difficult for people to follow because they think they need sugar. They believe they need this sugar.
Yeah.
They feel a bit grim once they start sort of saying, right, I'm not going to have any biscuits today. By about 10 o'clock, they start to feel a bit sort of physiologically challenged, and it's really easy for people to slip back. So you have to be pretty determined in the outset, and understand all the benefits of doing this and prepare yourself mentally, but also your environment, and have other people help you because it is for some people a considerable challenge to give up sugar and carbs, but a massive health benefit.
Yeah,
and psychologically as well, mental health, people's mental health is much improved. By sugar.
Absolutely. We've been saying all week that there's a difference between ignoring those hungry pangs, which is caused obviously by, among other things, a hormone called ghrelin. Ignoring that, there's a difference between hunger pangs and being malnourished, isn't there? We're trying to help the food banks a lot at the moment. And we're saying, look, people need food. We've got 2% of the population that rely on the food banks. People need food. They need our donations. But if you're eating good food the rest of the time and you're eating your vegetables and your meats and your healthy, natural, organic, unlabeled food, then just occasionally start to try and ignore that hungry feeling and just try and get past it. Learn to fast, try and get the sugar levels down and so on. Now, here's an interesting one. So every day on the show, we've been asking people to guess how much sugar is in something. So yesterday, Jack bring the graphic up, we asked everybody to guess how much sugar was in a large baked potato? So we asked that question, back to being a little bit furious myself, because for years, while I was on a diet, while I was obese, I'd come home, tonight I'm going to be good. I'm going to have a baked potato with beans on, or
with beans.
With beans, yeah, because I thought beans were healthy. And then other nights, when you were super conscious, you'd go, I'll have a baked potato and I'll put some tuna on. At least I got the tuna bit right. Jack, so let's show everybody that's watching how much sugar a baked potato turns into in terms of glucose effect on the bloodstream. We have a little graphic for everybody at home. So that's what we asked yesterday. A big baked potato, it's the equivalent of 19 teaspoons full of sugar.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Once it's digested. Talk us through that if we can.
Well, again, it's coming back to starch. So starch, in a way, is concentrated sugar. It's the plant's way of concentrating down sugar for storage. So wheat concentrates sugar down into the wheat grain, into which becomes flour. Potatoes, the very purpose of a potato is to store sugar as an energy source for the growth for the next year.
Right.
So really, what's going on is photosynthesis is producing glucose in the leaves. The leaves transport the glucose down into the potato tuber, where it's concentrated into starch for storage. And just as that lady explained to me at the very beginning, it is concentrated sugar and it gets digested back down into the sugar when you eat the potato. And Steve, I was exactly the same. I was convinced baked potatoes were a health food. And when I think of the rubbish that I trotted out, about only eat 2 eggs a week and baked potatoes, so many things. Anyway, there it is. Yes,
we're learning, aren't we?
Store sugar.
I've got somebody called FIFA, who's just come and left a comment, and FIFA says, my health professional wants me to continue taking metformin, specifically for the heart health benefits, despite it not being needed for blood sugar control. Is that something that is common? First question, she says. And then she says, my HbA1c is down, ready for this, from 68 to 37 using low carb and time restricted eating. So she's after some advice about a doctor saying keep taking it for heart benefits, and yet her HbA1c has come down from 68 to 37. Wow. Now I know you can't give medical advice over distance because we can all get in trouble for that, but give us some thoughts on that.
So the first thing is wow, although that is something I see about once a week now.
Fantastic.
And it just transforms my medical practice, because I'm seeing people who are doing so well, and it's not like work at all, because the patients are doing it. So that's a lovely story, isn't it?
Yeah.
The next point is the medical world is a bit divided.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we seem to have lost connection there, Jack. Yep. Do you want to come back to me while we get connection?
Can do.
Okay, we just seem to have lost David and Jen there. We will try and get them back on. We'll also be joined by the Caldesis in just a moment. So I'm going to just read some of the comments that have been coming through. For people who don't know, can you tell the difference between diabetes type 1 and type 2? I'll do that, Nick. Type 1, which is about approximately 5 out of 100 people that have got diabetes have got type 1. Good friend of mine, Dr. Ian Lake, who's going to be on the show next week. He's got type 1. A good friend of mine, Teo, has got type 1, and another good friend, Cherry Caval, has got type 1. So what they've got is where the pancreas has stopped creating insulin. It's just stopped producing it. Now that is normally something that people, but nobody knows really what causes it. It could be hereditary, it could be overuse of antibiotics. Nobody knows for sure what it is, but it's definitely an immune system problem that has caused the pancreas to stop creating insulin. Type 2 diabetes is where we're still putting out insulin, the pancreas is still doing that, but we need more of it to remove the sugar from the bloodstream. So here's the thing, and the way I tell everybody, it's a bit like, I don't know if you know a pearl. A pearl is formed in an oyster when a little irritant, maybe a grain of sand or something, gets inside, and the oyster goes, oh, that's a bit annoying. So it puts this thing called nacre over the little sand grain, and it grows and it grows and it grows. And it's doing that to protect itself. What insulin does in the body, it's like, I don't know, an usher in the church, if you like. You've eaten the bread, you've eaten the pasta, you've eaten the rice or the pizza or the banana, it's turned into lots of sugar. And sugar in the bloodstream, too much of it, is effectively poison for the body. So the body goes and releases insulin, it grabs the sugar and puts it in our fat store. It literally stores it as fat, as energy for maybe another day. Let's have a look while we're trying to get Jen and David back. Jen, from a clinical psychologist point of view, how can someone best overcome sugar addiction? Well, we'll ask that hopefully when we get them back on the line. Right, while we're waiting to get David and Jen back, do we have the Caldesis on the line yet, family? No. Not yet? Okay, that's absolutely fine. So let's talk about why we're here, what we're doing. We're trying to raise money and awareness and support for our amazing food banks across the UK. There's a problem at the moment, and that is that more people need the food banks than ever because of these hard times we're in, and yet the support that they normally get from us dropping off food in the boxes in the supermarkets has dropped a little bit, and that's kind of understandable because we're all racing around, aren't we, trying to think about our family and get food for our loved ones and maybe elderly relatives. But it's really important we keep topping up the food banks wherever we can with food. Secondly, of course, their support network that help hand out the food and distribute the food and in the community. A lot of those people are in self-isolation, quite rightly at the moment. So the food banks really need your support, my support. If you go to Just Giving and type in the Food Bank Show, we'd love to get your donations. When I last looked, we were just getting to £10,000, or you can text the number that you just saw on the screen together. And I find it, and I'm sure you're the same, I find it pretty sad that in our own country, on our own doorstep, we need to solve this. We have to find a way that eventually we don't need food banks because it's just not fair. It's just not fair that some people can't get access to food. But together right now, please, please help us. Please, I'm pleading you support and help the food banks by donating more food in store. And at the same time, if you could, oh, here's my daughter, come in, say hello. This is little lovely Lily. She was Annie in Annie recently. She practiced for 6 months solid. The day before her first launch show, what happened?
Cancelled.
It was cancelled because of the virus. Hopefully it'll be back on soon. Yeah, well done. Thank you, everybody. Your donations are incredible. Over £10,000 now. Family, a round of applause, please. Over £10,000 now raised for the food banks, which is excellent. Thank you very much for your support. Right, let's do a food fact every single day. We're going to give you some facts about foods. Today, we're talking about my beloved coconut. I love coconuts. Kids are probably sick to death of it. We have it in coconut powder. We have it in coconut chunks. We have it in coconut oil at home. We have it in coconut flour that we make bread out of. We have coconut in literally everything because it is a really healthy food. And we have some prizes to give out because a way of getting, by the way, if you can subscribe, hit the subscribe button right now. If you can, give us a like, that would be great. Set the bell reminder and please, please, please share to everybody you know. We need to get more people on the program because the more people that watch this, the more we learn, the more we help the UK in terms of getting our health back, taking control of our health like David and Jen were talking about. And David tells a lovely, lovely story that for many, many years, when he was running his practice, his GP practice, he got to a point where he didn't want to see anybody with diabetes because he felt he just couldn't help. He'd get one of his other doctors to see people with diabetes because he just felt depressed that there was no way of helping. Today he's delighted to see people because he knows there is an answer for people with type 2. So here we go then. Let's put the food fact up then. Jack, these are all the reasons to take coconut in terms of coconut oil or coconut flakes. First of all, it has an oil in it called an MCT, which is I won't bore you with the detail, but it's a medium chain triglyceride. It's a way of getting energy really, really quick. So if you need a fast burst of energy, then MCT is great. Then it's full of vitamins, and don't forget the B vitamins and vitamin C are really, really important because we can't store them in our body. We need to get them on a daily basis. A, D, E, and K, the other vitamins we can't store. We still need them, but if you miss 1 or 2 days, not the end of the world. Full of minerals, and it's also a great source of fiber. Now, write down that yesterday, I'll give you a bit of a cheat. Yesterday we did eggs, if you didn't watch it. Eggs yesterday, today coconut. Just write these down. And when we come to the end of this series, when we're all allowed to go back out, when we leave our food bunker and the kids can go back to school and the series is finished, we will get you to tell us how many that you listed. So you might need to go back and see some of the other programs. How many food facts were there? Tell us what they were. And we're going to pick then a winner and say £1,000 of jewellery, or come and spend a weekend with us at a boutique hotel. We'll all go out for dinner and we'll celebrate how much money we've raised for the food banks. So lots and lots of competitions going on. The other competition we're asking you to do is to go to Primal Living and take advantage, if you like, of the fact that McDonald's, KFC, Burger King, Subway, Greggs are all closed at the moment. Take a benefit of the fact that all the restaurants are closed. We want you to cook something new at home. And by the way, this is a great cookbook. We want to cook something new at home that you've never cooked before. We want to take a photograph, share it with us on our Facebook page at Primal Living, and we'll also there be giving out either £1,000 worth of jewellery at the end of this event, or again inviting you to come and spend a weekend with us all at Primal, with Nikki, with Pop, my children and I. Will go for a nice big dinner to celebrate how much we've raised for the food banks of the UK. Let's see if they've got any more questions coming in, and we'll try and then get Giancarlo and Katie on. So lots and lots of comments coming in. Yvonne says, morning Steve and the Unknowns. We are all feeling the stress of what's going on out at the moment. Myself and other members of our low carb group are struggling to keep motivated and find ourselves snacking. Yvonne, that's a really, really, really good point. It's a great point because, you know, we're all in this together, and I've at the moment got 5 of my kids back at home because the schools are finished, the universities are closed. So how do you remove the temptation for the snacking? So what I would recommend is get some good books like the one we got here, or go to Primal Living. We've put every single recipe from my cookbook up free of charge on our website, or head over to Primal Living on Instagram. We've got loads of ideas there, and try and prepare some snacks the day before, because most of the snacks you can keep in the fridge or you can freeze, and try and make some low carb snacks so that they're there waiting when you're tempted to just jump in and get some of the not so healthy snacks. They're there waiting. The other thing is, and we're going to hear this a lot from Asim Malhotra on Sunday, is that look, keep your distance, keep all the things we're told to do. So keep, you know, our distance, the 2 meter gap. Keep washing your hands. And then the best thing that anybody can do on top of those 2 things for their own health is to build their immune system. And to keep it really simple, Dr. Asim Malhotra says, the number one thing, just eat real food. And what Asim's going to say then, and one of the reasons we took off the little ticker tape with the news on the other day, was let's not keep looking at the news so much, because as long as we're doing what we can to keep our family and our loved ones safe, just turn off the news for a bit, because anyway, you'll find out a lot more about that. Jack, who do we have on the line?
I believe we have Jen and David back.
Jen and David, I believe we got you back.
We're back.
We're back.
We had a nice chat with the Caldesi.
Oh, you did? Fantastic. So we're going to link those through in a second. But Jen, one
They're
question.
back there as well.
Oh,
There they are.
I think we're all here together in one big online sort of party that we're going to throw some graphics
Low carb
on.
party.
Now, okay. So I'm
Classic Italian.
I'm going to. So I'm going to. Hello, Katie.
Hello.
Hello, Giancarlo.
My cup of coffee.
Good man. Good
From
man.
Sweden.
I'm going to tell everybody the link between you two. David and Jen wrote the foreword to your cookbook, which is the Diabetes Weight Loss Cookbook, which when I looked on Amazon a few days ago was the #1 book of all in the country.
Really?
Well,
Really?
yeah. Well done, well done. So over
Oh
to
my
you.
God.
Over to you guys. You two families have a little chat, and we're just going to sit back and listen and learn. And let's start maybe with Giancarlo. Tell us your own health story, because you've got a great story.
Well, what's really interesting, actually, I was just, I've been monitoring myself even before this terrible thing has happened and now. And what I found actually that's so interesting, that because of our life is changing and I can't go outside and get this in a shop, you pick something up and you put it in your mouth and whatever it is. I've realized that, first of all, my weight in the last 2 weeks has been so constant. It's like 13.7, but constant, really hasn't moved. The night before was like, one day was 7, then it came to 10, 13, 10. And also, the way I feel is really much better. I feel much more wide awake, healthier, like I'm eating the food that I'm now accustomed to. My lifestyle has changed, but without the extra bits that you go in and you pick on little sugar bit or anything that's around, which really is not the right food as far my body is concerned. So this has been amazing, because since I haven't been well from 2010, 11, and 2012, I started monitoring myself. I noticed very much what I eat is so devastating for me, to make me feel unwell from the morning to the evening and so on and so forth. So food has been a revelation, really.
Giancarlo, can you hear me?
Yes.
What did you weigh before? So we know you're 13.7 now. What did you weigh before you went low
Well, when
carb?
I started, I was 17 and a half. And then for a few years, I was on the 14.3, 14.4. My aim was to be below 14 stone. But on the 13.7, 13 a bit, I feel comfortable. I really feel comfortable in the sense I don't feel too thin or too, when you feel a bit weedy and not nice. I feel okay. So, well, I don't know, but whatever. No, but, seriously, it's that kind of feeling. So food for me is not a war against food, but I have to pay attention on what I eat. Actually, just be very selective and try to avoid anything that is carby, and that it can turn into sugar. The less I have of that, more protein based, if you like. Vegetable is fine. Healthy fats. And if I have rice now, I try to have 2 spoonfuls, not like a bowlful,
We both got cream in our coffee.
Yeah.
Can I
The other thing that I can't give up, I have to say, it's a bit difficult. Not every week, every 2 weeks, I have a bit of gluten-free pasta, obviously, because I've got some other problems. But that is a bit difficult to give up as an Italian. But apart from that, everything is fine.
But at the end of the day, what I want to get across is that, you two, big celebs, you've been on the BBC, you've had your Return to Tuscany shows. And my point here is that if a award-winning chef, because I know you've got awards from the Italian government, if an award-winning chef is diabetic and can reverse it by cutting out his beloved pasta and his pizza, does that should give inspiration to everybody, like my dad, and everybody, should it not?
Well, I find it very stressful, because when I talk to people and I tell them that the reality is a mindset in many things, because like you were saying before, the test buds changes after 6 it does change, but it's the mindset. You have to concentrate and be aware of what's around you, and not just like a shovel, just shovel everything in, whatever comes along. It's so important to listen to your body when you eat something that it ain't right for you. And then you feel, I don't feel that great. So what did you eat? If you do that, you will have such a big result at the end of the week. It's inimaginable, because you think, oh, that bit that I had yesterday, now I don't feel good. So relate to what you eat, how you feel.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what have you substituted your beloved pasta with? What have you substituted your beloved pizzas with? Oh, well, I know one of the answers because it's in your brilliant cookbook is, and you taught me to cook it when you came up last time, was your pizza, a low carb pizza, was fantastic.
Well, I consider myself lucky because Katie and with Dr. David Unwin and Jen Unwin and Jenny, they've done such a fantastic job on what is the food related stuff. And really, I eat what's in the book actually. Mm-hmm. And I follow religiously. If you say have a steak or something, I don't have potatoes. To be honest, sometimes I like it. I have, let's say, 25 grams, one potato wedge, which I eat for about 10 minutes because of the flavor. You know what it is. But it's not an amount that is like a big packet of chips. Mm-hmm. So I tend to get my flavors, my mind wandering in a different way. So something little lasts longer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's my guinea pig. I experiment on him, so I sort of think something might work, and then I feed it to him, my beloved guinea pig, and see if he finds it horrible and if he enjoys it. So the first time I thought of having cabbage instead of pasta, I cut white cabbage up into exactly the same width as you find tagliatelle, and then I boiled the white cabbage. I put some butter on it and some pepper and salt and made the cabbage ribbons really, really soft. And then I put the ragu that he loves so much on top, like a bolognese sauce. And I put cheese on top. So it looked identical to pasta. And I said, try this. And he ate it. And he knew there was something a bit different about it. It didn't quite work out what it was. So I think it's important that you shouldn't give up your Italian heritage, all those wonderful pasta sauces. You just have to have them on something that doesn't send glucose in your body. And so cabbage, roasted vegetables, all sorts of things you can eat instead of pasta.
Yeah.
The other thing, what I really have found the Katie's recipes, and I really mean as a distant person, if you wish, the recipe, they're very tasty. They go flavor. And if you have flavor and you eat slowly, the flavor actually fills you up even more than what you think.
Yes.
It's so important.
Of a meaty bolognese sauce, you've got all the healthy stuff in there. You've got the olive oil cooked in. You've got from the beef mince as well. It's going to be fantastic. There's no reason to turn your back on those lovely traditional recipes. Just have to think of eating them in a different way.
I remember Dr. David Unwin said to me, have a coffee with some cream, okay?
And we were like, God,
oh, really?
Cream?
And now in my Swedish cup, yeah, Sweden.
No breakfast.
No breakfast. The fact is when I had two coffees, okay? When it gets into your mouth, you feel a kind of sense of fulfillment. I'm okay. I don't want to pick on something else. Mm-hmm. And then what I think is the key, and I really have to refer to the Unwins, is that your mouth is like, mine is expression, just normal expression. If your mouth is quite fatty, you don't look for something else. If it's dry, and you can think, what can I have now? And you're looking for something all the time.
It should be satiating. So you should feel nicely full after your lunch and your dinner, so that you're not going to pick for the rest of the afternoon. I think it's so important not to snack. And Jenny Phillips, who did the nutrition on our book, has always said, do not snack. And she has a really good point. And when we're busy, we're not snacking. That's when my weight is completely stable and this food. When we're bored and there's food around you all the time, you can't help but pick, and then the weight goes back up.
Yeah, it is just trying to avoid the snacks, isn't it? And remember they used to say just after the Second World War, eat little but often, and it's just so wrong, isn't it? We need those gaps between meals to go into self-repair mode rather than metabolizing the food. And just so
David, the biscuit.
yeah,
Last
absolutely.
bit about the biscuits in his drawer.
The biscuit, the biscuit.
Go on, David. Tell us your story, David, about the biscuits in the drawer. And
Yeah, well, in the early days, I had a really bad biscuit habit, and I'd got into the idea that when you look at your list of the people coming to see you, you can see trouble coming. And you know that some of those people are going to come in and they're cross with you, they're going to moan, they're going to say your treatment's not working. And so there were some people that I'd actually eat 3 or even 4 biscuits before I could cope with seeing.
Dr. David the Biscuit.
Yeah, they were in the top right-hand drawer. And then other patients could see that I enjoyed biscuits, so they were constantly bringing me them as gifts. So that's where my middle-age spread came from. And it took me a year to give up on biscuit eating.
That's true.
And I was so addicted.
Yeah. You
I had to
changed the nuts, and then you eventually gave the nuts up.
Yeah, I had to, like an addict, I had to transition from biscuits. Then I went to oat biscuits, and then I went on to almonds. But it took me a full year to go all the way from biscuits to no snacks.
Yeah,
I can associate
sympathy. Yeah, real sympathy with people who struggle to give up snacks, because I felt I needed the biscuits to cope somehow and give me the energy.
Well, it's literally a dopamine boost. It literally does affect your brain chemistry. So when people say I eat because I'm stressed or because I'm upset or because I'm bored, well, they do, and those pathways in the brain become very rewarding and habitual, and they work in the habit centers. So it is hard. That's why I was saying before, it's simple advice, but it's not always the easiest thing for people to do. And people like myself, and I think probably Giancarlo, or that proportion of people that are actually quite addicted to carbohydrate. And it is a struggle to come off. And we have quite a few patients, and myself included, who, you know, you do struggle along the way. I mean, I wouldn't say now, but over the years, I have had times when, you know, I have fallen off the wagon. I think probably Giancarlo has as well. And then you have to just acknowledge, as Giancarlo was saying, that you feel better, you feel more energetic. You know, you just feel so well in yourself mentally and physically. That you recognise that and you get back on the wagon as soon as you can. And you know you can do it because you've done it once. So you do it again.
At Christmas, I indulged and I went over 14 stone and 1 pound. Now, this is the story. That's what happened to me in the last few weeks, okay? Obviously, we're all very concerned. And if you're not, that is, you know. So what's happened is when this COVID-19 came, seriously, didn't eat for 3 days. I did not eat for 3 days, and I went down to 13 stone 4. But I couldn't eat, honestly. I'm so hurt for my people. It's just the way it is. Everybody's different, okay? My story is my story. Okay, by not eating, I'm not really cared if I did eat or not eat. That's not the point. But what I've learned from it is the snacking. And I said to myself, right, if for 3 days I didn't eat and I survived, okay, let's think in a different way, not because we have a problem, right? And I didn't snack, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. And I'm okay, I'm fine. Why should I start now? And the other thing that plays in my mind, just me, I was born after the war, so we didn't have much food. So obviously, you eat lunch if you had lunch, and dinner if you had dinner. And nothing in between, because we did nothing. So I'll go back to my shell and say, I must save the food for a rainy day. I don't know if this, but this is me, okay? And so if I put all that on the table, funny enough, I'm much better physically, and my head, my mentally, you know, the brain is not obfuscated than before. So what does it tell me about food?
Have less.
Yeah.
Essentially, that is what's happened lately.
That's a really good point. I want to pick up, I've got one question for David, Jen, and one for the Caldesis right now. So, by the way, this week's podcast on Fat and Furious, it's with yourselves, the Caldesis. We've moved it forward off the back of this show. And one thing that Katie said to me when we recorded the podcast, and the podcast is on iTunes, it's on Spotify, it's also be on YouTube. One of the things that you said, Katie, and I think it's brilliant, and I'd like you to maybe just expand on that, is that we can go into a restaurant and say, I'm vegan, be careful what you feed me, I'm vegetarian, I'm glucose intolerant, I've got a nut allergy. But those that are worried about diabetes or overweight or obesity, we can't yet say, I'm carb free. And you said that to me, and I thought that's such a good point. And in our own restaurant, we've now put that on the menu. We've said, if you are carb free, just let us know. But just expand on that, because it is the crux of the matter, isn't it? And Giancarlo's turned his diabetes around. He's got it in remission. And the number one thing, I guess, is just cutting down on the carbs.
Yes, yeah, and it's difficult. You won't go to zero carbs, but low carbs. So it's just much lower proportions of carbs than he was eating. And it constantly astonishes me when I'm writing recipes and I'm looking up carb levels, quite how many carbs are in something like a traditional pizza. I mean, I love a traditional pizza, but it is shocking the amount of carbs that are in one. That's a whole day's intake for somebody in one meal. And then if you're having something like toast or cereal for breakfast, and then maybe pizzas for lunch, and in the evening you go and have pasta or something with rice, it is a shockingly huge amount of carbs you're having in one day.
Absolutely. What are you guys doing? Because obviously you run a cooking school, you run restaurants.
We were.
I'm sure you'll be back, because you're so, your food is brilliant. You're absolutely amazing. I've heard you're taking your cooking school online, Katie. Is that right?
Yes, I'm doing some videos that will be released over the next few days to keep people cooking at home, and well, not that anyone's got any choice anymore, but to help with store cupboard ingredient recipes. So I've been doing that over the last couple of days. I'm writing another book, because this is the second book. I know you're holding up the first book, which is fantastic, and I appreciate that. That's the first one. This is the second book.
Okay, I don't have that yet.
Came out on March the 19th. So just only came out a couple of weeks ago. I'm writing book 3.
Message to children, let's get that book later on today. We need some more inspiration. So the children are going to get that for me today.
Oh, good.
And then I had a question for David. David, you said the snack drawer, the biscuit drawer was the problem. And I vividly remember when we did our podcast together, which I think comes out in a week or so's time, you said to me, what I then realized with the biscuits was that they're just a little bit bad. But then again, who would want to poison themselves a little bit at a time?
Yeah, and I've often thought about that. I'm often asked at the end of a sort of a speech that I give, is what about moderation? And there are two problems with moderation. Number one, what is it? Can you weigh moderation? How many grams is moderation? And the second one is if like Giancarlo and also me, you have type 2 diabetes, why would it be okay to be a bit poisoned or moderately poisoned? Why wouldn't Giancarlo want to be well properly? Yeah. And that's what this lockdown has just reminded him, that when he comes away from moderation and does it properly, he's looking the best he's looked in a long time.
And look, there's a third point, which is that would you tell, if we're thinking that sugar is addictive, which I really believe, and there's plenty of evidence for, then would you tell an alcoholic to have a moderate amount of whiskey? You wouldn't. You'd say have no whiskey. It's just easier not to have it. So, some people can do a little bit, but really, is it just easier mentally to say there's a bright line there?
Yeah. Flavio made a cheesecake, which is a normal cheesecake, obviously with no gluten. And I had one slice, and then I went for another little slice, because the sugar in it is more than what I'm used to. And seriously, sugar it's just right, really. I can't. You can give me a bowl of something, and really, I will eat all of it. I really would.
Too.
Totally.
Obviously, I'm going to be so unwell. This is a joke, but
no, totally get it. And I'm the same, and also I do like a glass of wine. And the problem is when you have a glass of wine, it inhibits the hormone that goes and releases the sugar from my brought forward fat. And because it sort of prevents that from going and sort of turning my body fat back into energy, then you find yourself snacking more. And I'm absolutely fine as long as I don't have a glass of wine, but as soon as I have a glass of wine,
and
I've had it.
I'm the same, and it does two things. So it does that as well, Steve, but it also disinhibits us, doesn't it? So some of the time we're using our kind of human frontal lobes to stop us indulging. We're sort of using our logical brains. Alcohol sort of blocks that down, so we're more likely to do sort of primitive things, let's say.
Yes, it affects the brain, so we become, I don't know, we become more weak-willed, but also inhibits glucagon, so we can't then turn body fat into energy. Right, we come to the end of the show.
It's a bad idea in two ways.
We come to the end of the show. I'm going to see, right, this is what we're going to do. First of all, could I ask if you could both come back on another day, because it's been absolutely fascinating. But I'd like to wrap up with saying, the show, this one was called Can you reverse type 2 diabetes? Let's go first to Giancarlo. Can you reverse type 2 diabetes?
Absolutely, with no question whatsoever. It is really by changing a lifestyle, your life changes in a flash. It really does. It really does. And people don't realize how much the body is resilient to really get you back into a proper level, really. It's amazing.
And same question to the Unwins. Can you reverse type 2 diabetes?
Yes, with the proviso. I prefer the word remission.
Okay.
Because that is a reminder to Giancarlo and to me that if we go back to eating the way we used to eat, we'll be ill again. So if you could just call it remission,
brilliant,
I'd be so happy. And the answer is definitely, I'm doing it every week for patients of mine. Every week I'm seeing people.
And final question, I guess the Unwins, with COVID-19, we're told to keep our distance, wash our hands, which is everybody must do that. And your good friend Dr. Simloch said probably the next best thing we could do is bolster our immune system by eating real food. Is that something a message we should all be sharing, that maybe now we're in lockdown, you've got to change your eating habits. Let's start eating real foods to boost our defense.
Yeah, if you can get your hands on it, it's the perfect time, because you're in control of your environment now. Like Giancarlo said, one of the problems for us sugar addicts is that it's everywhere. It's in the garage. It's in this, it's just everywhere, isn't it? At work, people are trying to give you cake. So at the moment, if you're stuck at home, clear that stuff out. Then you're not triggered to eat it. And if you can get your hands, go to your local. We're going afterwards to the local butchers to get some really good quality meat. Support the local shops, buy real food. And also, talking about the food banks, don't be buying pasta to put in the food bank thing. Go all out and buy some tins of tuna, like you mentioned, Steve, for people. Maybe even tinned vegetables, corned beef would be much better, particularly if we're trying to help feed children who need that protein and that animal fat for their development. So if you're going to make a donation, please try and make it, something that's healthy.
Guys, you've all been absolutely fantastic. Jack, could we go to camera 3? I want my children to thank you all for giving advice, because their granddad is diabetic, probably injected himself 1.5 hours ago. So your advice has been fantastic. And if we could have you back on the show, because we're going to be doing this every day in the health bunker until they're allowed to go back to school, that would be great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
everybody. So the advice we've just been given is, with your doctor's support, don't go changing your diet on your own straight away if you're on anything other than metformin. If you're on metformin, Dr. David Unwin said, then try and cut down the carbs. If you're not on medication, cut down the carbs. It is no longer, if it's type 2 diabetes, irreversible. It is no longer chronic. It is no longer progressive. It can be reversed. Dr. David Unwin then said over 100,000 people already put it into, as he said, not reverse, let's eradicate that word. Let me apologize, forgot it already, in remission. It's in remission when you're eating the right foods. Right, we've got time for one more thing, and what we have to do right now is we have to say tomorrow's competition. Tomorrow's competition is, we want you to guess what a handful of raisins turns into. Because yes, we are supposed to have 5 fruit and veg a day, but we have to pick the right fruit choices. And I'll just tell you right now, heads up, raisin isn't one of them if you are diabetic, if you have metabolic problems, if you're obese or pre-diabetic. So have a guess. Please leave a comment on YouTube today, overnight. Please, please, please tell everybody about this channel. Please, where you can, make a donation. And my family and I will be back with you tomorrow at the same time at 10 o'clock. Please do, though, tell everybody you know. And there they are, waving off goodbye from the children. It's goodbye from me. Please do share this link. Go and hit the share button. Please subscribe. Please do the notification. Please help us get the word out there how to help the UK live healthy, happier, and get through this stronger together.